Hi everybody, it's Allison Durant coming to you from my art studio here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I have a variety of watercolor paints and gouache in front of me. And just to get out of my head, I am going to be starting with kind of color craving exercises. And the last video I did with you all was painting butterflies very, very loosely with the shape of our brush that we had available, sort of the brush of choice. And it was just very random, whatever came to my mind during the video. That's just how my videos are. And I'm usually pretty good at hitting the record button, but today it took me a while. I always have a laugh because I'll get ready to record and then I will have to go brush my teeth, and it's almost like I feel like I'm getting ready for a work meeting in person with people. And I always laugh because it's just so random that I feel like I can't do a video unless I've brushed my teeth. Anyway, I just had to share that. So I am really not thinking right now because I am just starting to paint. And I am just doing loose shapes with my brush. And they could look like flowers, like pansies to you. To me, they could look like, again, butterflies, abstract butterflies, which is what I'm trying to go for here. And I'm just using a variety of different colors of watercolor. And while my images or the artwork is still a bit wet, I love to drop in different colors in different areas. So while this kind of burnt orange color on the bottom wings or petals is just drying, I'm dropping in another color, a yellow, just to see what I get. And I'm gonna just be, again, just go with what I feel today, which is very random. And I'm just gonna get this yellow, orangish yellow down on the paper that's on my brush. And this is really just a watercolor, I always call it a watercolor warm-up exercise. And so if this is your first time tuning into my video, you will need to accept me for my unedited video content. I tend to be very random, and I just really go with what I'm feeling in the moment, which is how I practice art and creativity in my life. It's how I paint, which is, it's not completely intuitive. I often have an idea, do I want to paint watercolor today? Do I want to do acrylic? Am I into, say, abstract butterflies lately, or botanicals? Or I do have an idea in mind. I take a lot of online art classes and I get inspired by other artists and my environment, but I tend to be quite random with the way the videos go. So thank you so much to all of you that have subscribed. I really appreciate you, and I feel so grateful. And this morning I had turned on some music in the house and I was doing a bit of cleaning, and I just felt so inspired to paint. And I realized that music is a huge part of my creative process. And I had this thought in my head that wouldn't it be so awesome, painting with, I'll put on, my headphones and some of my favorite music, and you would just see me paint in a really different, free, fast, loose way. And I think that would be pretty cool to do sometime. I'm in Canada, and it can be really hard with music rights for videos. It can take a lot of time to kind of sort that out. if anyone has any tips, I'm always open, but I love certain artists, and I know I have to be really selective on social media channels as to what music I use. There's a lot of, you have to be so cautious of rights, copyright, but I was just thinking today how free music makes me in my creative process, and I'm just curious if it also makes you feel free in yours, or if you like the silence, the quiet. I think it really depends on the day for me. So right now I am taking my round brush, but I'm creating a really loose shape. I was trying to do a circle, but it didn't end up being a circle, and that's okay. And I'm not going back in to correct the shape, if that makes sense. I'm not touching my brush down to really change what is happening on the paper. I'm letting the watercolor and the pigments of the paint, you know, with the water kind of do their own thing. And I think that's where I see so much beauty in watercolor. And I'm going to, again, just like switch my shapes up. Switch the amount of water I use. And I'm working fairly fast across my page. And I'm just craving certain colors in the moment. I like neons. I'm going to drop in this Mozart Kohlrabi Japanese watercolor neon and just kind of see where it takes me. And so if you're painting along with me, you know, using the paintbrush that you have, whether, you know, it might be a flat brush, it might be a round brush, it could be, you know, an acrylic paintbrush. This is an example of a little acrylic paintbrush. For this practice, it's all about just going with what color is just coming to you in the moment that you're painting and getting that color down. And just putting shapes down and not really overthinking it. I find it really interesting where I'm pulling the orange down with this fuchsia. And sometimes I pick up a color and I drop it into the work that's drying above me. But yeah, back to music. I think, you know, the way I paint is so different when I have music to listen to, especially music that has, you know, that just resonates with me. And I do think it does depend on the day. Some days you just feel like quiet. I just had to turn this one into a flower as the shape was, you know, in my mind, just taking me in that direction. And if I was gonna just be completely free on video with you all, I'm just going to just make sure, I just had a peek to make sure you're in my view. I'm just kind of going with whatever I'm feeling in the moment. So right now I actually want to drop in a black or a really dark brown, which I'll see if I can find. I have a really dark brown. I think this is a dark brown. If it's not, that's fine. And just putting it right there in the center and kind of letting it move around on its own. And because I have that dark brown on my brush, I'm gonna look to see what else is still wet and maybe if I want to add a stem. So I'm a little bit shaky, but if I can kind of just loosely, now that's a really thick stem. And I'm not a fan of my stems being that thick, but this is just all about play and relaxation and experimentation and learning what you love and what you wouldn't maybe incorporate into your art in the future. So this is a relaxation exercise, and if that's all you want it to be, that's awesome. But if you want it to be an exercise in finding your own style, it is one of exploration, and it's just kind of training your mind to let go and listen to your instinct of what you want to do next. I feel like because I'm on video, normally I wouldn't fill up the whole page because I'm excited to do some other stuff on here, some other marks. What I'm going to do is just add a few more. I'm trying to space out my art a little bit in case I want to cut my art out after and use it as collage or repurpose it in my art in a different way. So, you know, if you're thinking you may at some point want to cut it out, just leaving a bit more space than I do is what I'd recommend. Is I don't always practice what I preach on my videos. I kind of talk as though I'm talking to myself and what would help me. And there I'm kind of trying to make it into more of a butterfly or flower, this one. But yeah, finding your own style, I mean, that's something that can take really a long time. I think there's a lot of artists that may feel they're still kind of searching for their own style, even if they've been practicing art or, you know, creating art for a long time. I often get comments about how people would love to learn more how to find their own style through art and, you know, videos. I think the only thing I can say is it really is just practice and practicing letting go and just doing what you feel in the moment. Like you can see, I just dropped in this metallic color up here and I love what it's doing. And I'm trying not to manipulate it at all and make it anything. This could be a butterfly, but I'm just gonna go through and do what I'm feeling, which is adding a little bit of a stem. And I'm working on 98-pound paper. If you can, you know, if it's accessible for you, I love 140-pound paper for watercolor and wet media because it will just not buckle as easily, especially if you're new to watercolor or mixed media art. 140-pound weight is great, or up. Canson mixed media paper is wonderful. This is the coil book. It's 11 by 14 inches, and I will make sure to link it in my description. I'm really using just a ton of watercolors, and unless there's something really specific, I'm not going to list all of the colors. I often don't do that, as I want this exercise to be, you know, using what you have, experimenting with different supplies, and just going to go over top of this and make more of a wing. And sometimes what I like to do is use water-soluble art supplies with my watercolors. So right now I'd love to put some stems on the Botanicals. Ideally, I would do it before they dry. This is sort of a reddish brown. This is a Super Color Soft number 2 pencil by Carand'ache. And I'm just going to really loosely, I did a little flick on the end of that one. And I'm just gonna add some branch work. And then this one, again, I really like putting the water-soluble pencil crayons on before the artwork, the image has dried. because when you do that, it will pick up the watercolor and move and become really interesting. So like for instance, this one, you can just see that some of the pink was dragged down by the pencil crayon. And for me, I feel already way more relaxed than when I was trying to hit the start button of my video. Some days it takes me a long time to hit the start button, and it's quite funny. I'm just going to switch out my water actually, because my water is getting quite muddy. And what I'm going to do here is just show you a few more kind of techniques that I love, and I'm really, really happy with what's in front of me because the colors bring me joy. They give me dopamine and serotonin. We are back to a really big snowstorm right now, and we had just a taste of spring here in Calgary a few days ago. I think it was about 17 or 18 degrees, and it's probably minus, I don't know what it is now, but we're in quite a snowstorm. So I needed this today. And so paint what you need in your life. I just had to drop in that gorgeous turquoise color in this lower, what I think is, you know, probably going to become a flower. I'm just not sure how I want to make it into a flower. I'm just going to dot it over here, and I'm going to maybe go up and just sort of like butterfly wings, pushing down and coming in, giving it a little wiggle and then coming down. And to be honest, if I wanted to draw or paint a butterfly, even though it seems so basic, I would have to look up videos for myself. You know, if for instance, I was going to put one on a large canvas, and if I wanted it to be a little bit more realistic, that's not usually the way I paint, but you might be watching me and really just feel more comfortable if first you look up images online, or maybe creating like a Pinterest board and putting butterflies or art with butterflies on that before starting an exercise like this, or even botanicals. And I think it just sometimes makes us more confident in what we're doing if we have a little bit of that research under our belt. And I'm really liking how the red watercolor, the transparency, I'll just see if I can hold that up. I really like how the transparency of the turquoise is coming through darker, and it's kind of unexpected. And I still really like that color, and I'm just going to dot it loosely and randomly over on this one. And I'm going to go back to maybe, I don't use these Inktense Derwent pencils. These are made in England. And wow, made in England, that's kind of cool. I don't have a lot that's, other than my Neocolor carand'ache. My carand'ache brand is made in Switzerland, but it's really cool to see England today with these Derwent Inktense. This is apple green pencils. And so let's just get this one down. I'm going to wet it, and it's sort of like watercolor in a pencil stick. And I'm just really kind of loosely, and I'm not worried about asymmetry in my work. I just kind of loosely did that. I did that. Very technical. And down here, I just want to kind of add maybe a little bit of a ruffle in that one. And I love to work on multiples at a time. Now this is deep indigo, so again, I'm going to wet it in my muddy water, just dip the end right in, and very loosely, whoops, so loose that I broke it. Ah, that's unfortunate, but it's still okay. It was a bit of a happy accident because this side has more of a watercolor look and this side is lighter. I could leave it like that, or I could take my my round brush and just pick up some of the blue. It's turning into a bit of a neutral gray, and I really like that. And let's just find one, and I won't push so hard. This is called Bark. And I'm just gonna, again, kind of loosely, just trying to think of where, maybe I'll loosely go around this one. I'm gonna dip back in and very loosely go back, decide, do I like that? I like the look of it when it's wet. And go back around this one. This is becoming a very different botanical. Okay, so that one's unique. And then maybe what I'm gonna do is I'm just craving a transparent light orange over top of this blue. So blue and orange are complementary colors. They look good together, but you don't wanna overdo them. I got a little bit too much orange on my brush, so I'm just gonna add a bit of orange in this one loosely and maybe do some dots over here. And I'm just going to really loosely, and you can see how it's actually mixing because this blue underneath is still not dry, and that's good because I'm getting that neutral color I really like in my work. If you've been following me, you know when I started I had a little bit of rainbow-itis. I was a nurse as well. I have a laugh just because itis is the suffix for inflammation, right? So inflammation of the rainbow, itis, appendicitis, inflammation of the appendix, cholecystitis, inflammation of the gallbladder, kind of going off track here, but rainbow-itis is a term a lot of creatives have used. I think when they first start, maybe, I mean, some artists just have rainbow-itis and they're never going to recover. And I thought I would be one of those people that never did recover from rainbow-itis. Some days are harder than others. I relapse and I love mixing colors unexpectedly because it gets me, well, here, it's so funny, I'm talking about rainbow-itis and appreciating how the orange over the blue created this neutral green and that it keeps my rainbow-itis in check. And then here I am adding neon pink because my brain is like, no, we just need to go back to the rainbow. But this looks really cool, doesn't it? I would not have sat down and painted this just out of my head. The only reason this is here is from letting go and play, experimentation, exploration, you know, remembering that this is just paper. I really like that light over top of the dried orange. And what color? I think I'm going to add purple. I don't use much purple in my work. Let's see if I can find a purple. I think this is purple. I love when purple and brown mix. That's a really cool neutral. And I think I maybe overdid the watercolor on that side because I do like how you can see the underlayer. What I could do is just dab it up with a paper towel to bring it back and lighten it up and add texture of the paper towel, but I'm okay with that. I'm not going to do anything. My water is super muddy, so I'm just going to set that aside and change gears. And I'm going to add the body of the butterfly right here. I do love to use acrylic paint pens. I love this Uni Posca Japanese permanent acrylic paint pen in bronze, medium tip. And you just need to be very cautious. If you invest in these, it is an investment. They're costly. They are wonderful. Certain colors are probably better than others. I've really lucked out. This metallic bronze, whatever recipe they have, has worked for me. But you have to consider, you know, if these are shipped to you and they're sitting in a mailbox somewhere and it's, you know, minus 35, like it can be here, or it's super hot, you know, it changes based on where you live, the quality of the paint in the pen. I would recommend looking at Posca storage tips. I see a lot of artists storing their pens upright, which is awesome for accessibility, and I do that with these crayons. But if I was to store my Posca pen upright, I've heard that this little cartridge, you can hear when you shake the paint inside, there's that little cartridge. It can dry out. So if it's sitting like this, it can completely dry out, and it's just not great for the pen. You want to keep that tip filled with the paint. And you also never want to use the paint pen over top of anything wet, or it will be really hard to get it back. So that's sometimes why, so I see this is fully dry here. The top isn't, but I'm going to be risky, really careful, and just add a bit of bronze under there. And so I could do that because I knew that the bottom is dry. And this is dry, so I'm going to push down and do that body that I love, which is really just, it's not like a realistic butterfly where there's the head, the abdomen, the thorax. I don't know if I got those mixed up. There's 3 parts, I think, typically, and I am not really, that's not something I really enjoy in my own art. I like the abstract. I love the metallic. And, oh yeah, but anyway, if you go to Posca's website, looking up how to store paint pens, they give some really great tips, and also refilling them, which I am not there yet. I hope maybe one day to be there. It's very, very messy. It's tedious, but sometime I'll get there. And I'm just letting everything else kind of dry, and I'm going to just move this to give myself some more room. And so really what we're doing is like working out of a coil notebook that's hopefully accessible. Hopefully you can find some paper that's accessible and affordable and a decent weight. I always say try and get better quality paper than watercolors. That's just me for when I'm playing. This is a Stettler Permanent Lumo Color waterproof. It's like a really waxy crayon. Oh, made in Germany. Germany is representing too, which is awesome. We have England, Germany, and Switzerland at the table today. But anyway, this is not something I would usually put in my art, but just thinking outside, literally thinking outside the box. People often write on boxes with these, storage boxes, but this came with a box of these black permanent pens I wanted to try in my art, and because it came with it, I just want to put it into my art, and I really, really like how it went over top of that. It went in as the body there of the butterfly, and I think I'm gonna do it again. Maybe I'll add, where do I want to add a bit of yellow? I might add just a few dots, almost like berries over here of the yellow. And what I'm doing is kind of following loosely principles of art in my head. So I did not go to art school, but I've taken a lot of classes. One thing I like to incorporate, and you might not want to, because it's more of a, it's not a rule, but a principle of art is trying to have different size shapes in the work. So having the smaller, like kind of petals, those rounded shapes, and having the larger together, that can be appealing to the eye. I kind of think I have too many kind of in the center, and I just want to branch them out. If you watched my video the other day, I think it was yesterday actually, it kind of blends together sometimes, we made up plants, just like Kirsten Savig, this Minnesota artist. And she had that page. This is just a lovely, lovely little watercolor book, joyful book. And she'd written in here, I like making up plants. And that had given me the idea for the video where we could take this intuitive play. And I mean, we're kind of making up stuff anyway, right? And we are working intuitively and abstractly. And this just is super cool. So right now I think I'm thinking about this page and adding those yellow marks. And normally if I wasn't on video, I'd set this aside, let it dry, and then come back to it. And we'll just kind of keep working on it a little bit. And just really, I'm just exploring mark making tools that I have. And these are Stabilo Woodies. These are water soluble chunky crayons. I really love these. Now, because they're water soluble, it doesn't matter if my paper is wet anywhere. I can just go over top and make an interesting mark. So now that didn't come out as bright as I would have liked, but I still like it. And you can just see, if I was to show you up here, whoa, thought I broke it. Oh, I almost dipped into my water. Okay, I'm going back to my muddy water because I'm not going to get up. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just dip into this spray bottle right now. I just want to show you these Stabilo Woodies and how beautiful they are when you activate them with water. It just makes a really gorgeous light pink watercolor, and they're great for traveling. You know, they're a bit expensive, but I use them with my son who's in preschool, and relatives that are, you know, younger relatives. And they're great for dexterity, but they're also just, I love them probably because I have an essential tremor. So they're just a great, great product for dexterity. And of course, if you're worried about traveling with paint, you know, this is basically not paint until you activate it with water. It's just a crayon. And you can, again, just use that light color. We can just put it around our page. You can just see it's a really beautiful light pink. Okay, I really want to do something as the body here, which is still wet. So I'm going to grab maybe, what color do I want to do? I'm kind of squinting my eyes. I think I really like the whole play on turquoise, orange, and red. I'm just going to really put a thick body in here. And I love that. And this is with my Stabilo Woody water-soluble pencil again, the crayon. Black can be kind of cool too, depending on how you like to use it. And so let's just see, I can, just trying to decide what I want to do. Maybe I can do a black body here. And we'll do, whoops, a little bit of, oh, that was, okay, that looks kind of weird. That's okay. We'll just see if we can make it more appealing. It's one scary butterfly. I'll thicken that top. Okay, now it's not too bad. It's like, it looks like it's reaching out and holding my flower. I really, really want to add gold now in the middle of that flower. So I'll wait for it to dry and I'll go back to my gold pen later. And I want to maybe, I realized I'm moving my paper around a lot. So I know somebody found that distracting. I am just going to try and be more conscientious of that. So Just doing some red Inktense pencil. Oh, and I like the stripage that I was trying to correct, which is a happy accident. So I'm pushing down quite firmly. I'm dipping the water-soluble pencil crayon into water. And I'm also, I can tap it and get splatters, which it's really hard to see, but. And I am gonna now go back to a different, maybe this orange, dipping it into water and kind of pulling down and around. Maybe I want to do just some kind of loopy, doesn't have to be symmetric. And here's another text liner that I really like to use in my work. It's just a really waxy, it's really a waxy pencil crayon, but just check out how vibrant that is. It has a bit of a sheen when it goes on the paper. I purchased this individually at my local art store here at Kensington Art Supply in Calgary, and I think they discontinued them at the store, but I can try and at least give you the name of these. They're by Faber-Castell, which is a really great brand. It's called Grip Neon Text Liner 1148 Inkjet Paper. That's what's on there. That's a mouthful. Okay, and that neon, where do I want to put it? I think I'm gonna maybe go to this botanical down here. And I'm just gonna really loosely, almost like it has this neon pink halo. Oh, I kind of slipped there. Happy accident, that's okay. And then what I want to show you, I'm going to let this dry. Just going to show you, sometimes what I like to do is, ultimately I like leaving a longer stem on the botanicals that I may cut out into collage. And I just really loosely cut around the petals, not being too particular at all. If the petal is, say, round, sometimes I like to cut around it in a point, kind of like that one here. But because the petal is not round, I want to cut in a rounded design, and it just makes it way more interesting when it's cut out. Whoops, and I did not really do that example very well, but so because this is a 98-pound paper, it holds the watercolor well. You may find you have a different preference for a different weight, different type of paper. I know it can be really tough based on where you are. I know some of you are in very remote little places, and it can be really hard to even find anything other than just regular, printing paper. But just exploring what you have available and really playing with it. That's why I love art journaling, because you can just keep this journal and, just if you get a new supply, just like explore it, playing with it. I realized actually with this page I had purchased some highlighters that weren't meant for, art necessarily, but I had just been playing with the different colors and overlapping them, and I really liked putting them in my art journal. It just gave me joy. So, supplies that you have accessible, can you find a new way to use them? So I'm going to cut this other one out. Excuse me. And I like to do the cutting when sometimes I'm, you know, just watching TV or sharing space with my husband after a really long day at night. I like to keep my hands busy sometimes while I'm also watching a show. And if it's dark, excuse me, I'm not worried about, you know, colors or what I'm painting, what I'm doing. It's just kind of cutting out. And what I can do is just what we had already done. Maybe I'm going to grab, say, I'm going to use my Mozart Kohlrabi watercolor set, which has a lot of neons. And I believe I had just purchased this online through, I think it came from Amazon. I have to do a little check. My beautiful artist friend Linda Gallant had recommended this watercolor, and I really like it. Okay, so we have that, and maybe I'll drop in a bit of pink. And when it dries, it will just become something totally different. So we'll set that aside, and I'll maybe do that with this one. Just kind of going over top. I have a bit too much pigment, as I feel like the more pigment, the less appreciation for those underlayers. So I'm going to be let a little bit of the underlayers sneak through on that side. I love the asymmetry in my work. And while I'm on the topic of asymmetry, with this particular piece, I wanted to pull out a book. When I first started doing YouTube videos this past year, I did quite a few videos where I had shown this book, Cultivated, by Kristen Giel. I love this book for color palettes, for floral inspiration, for inspiration through words. She is so amazing. I was just seeing if there's a photo of her in here. But yeah, the book is called Cultivated, The Elements of Floral Style. I don't know if this is still being published, but I just feel so lucky. I happen to be at Chapters Indigo here in Calgary, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and this is one book I just keep going back to. So I'm talking about symmetry and asymmetry in creativity, but just wanted to show you the contents here. So she has, I think, a photography and a gardening and an artistic background, and this book is just like, it's amazing. It's wonderful if you're a creative or an artist. It's wonderful if you're a gardener. It talks everything. This page is about color and perception. And "10 Things to Learn from Dutch Floral Still Life." I love this first one. "Beauty is transient, honor change and decay. Don't be afraid of using primary colors together." So that's what we were doing when we mixed that blue and orange earlier, before my rainbowitis kicked in. Anyways, just a little idea of sort of some of the writing. Talks a bit about creativity. "A flower is never just a flower, but a resource for the exploration of color possibilities, of the evanescence of light and movement, the study of form and structure," by Penelope Lively. It's a lovely quote. Oh, and yeah, so before I go down a rabbit hole, it's not Easter yet. I wanted to show you this page, which I had tagged it's a lesson on wabi-sabi, which I talk about a lot in my work, which I often say is the art of imperfection, asymmetry. But I liked this page, the way they had written about it. They talk about the aesthetic principles of Zen philosophy, which I find have been really helpful in my art practice and to keep in mind. And I just wanted to also share with you that the way we create, at least with my videos, we create with simplicity in mind, or sort of simplicity as a goal, you know, at least simplifying the process of the doing of the art, if that makes sense. Because if we are putting pressures on ourselves with art and making it complicated and trying to follow rules or trying to follow like a lesson or, you know, color mixing step by step, for my personality anyway, that really I find stressful, and I feel like it limits my creativity. I just was thinking too that, you know, comparing yourself to others and how they do it is also very limiting. And I like to keep my videos very simple. That's why I like to do them unedited. And I like to create in a simple fashion, in the sense that whatever I feel in the moment is the next move I make on the page, the canvas, the panel. So Canso, which is the Japanese word for simplicity, also ties in with wabi-sabi, the art of embracing imperfection. Also, they talk a bit about irregularity in art and shapes, and that how we find beauty in the understated. The naturalness without pretense is very appealing to us as humans, or it tends to be. Subtle grace, I love that that's incorporated into the beauty and imperfection, wabi-sabi. Also freeness, which is, I know for myself, something that took a long time. I'm still not there. I'm not even nearly there with my art and my videos, finding freedom, but I know that I'm getting close. It's just a practice, and some days are harder than others. Tranquility, I love to incorporate elements of calmness in my art, or peace. And I think I do that almost without realizing it, because I tend to get, you know, feedback from people who have seen my work at shows or at galleries, or if they've purchased my work, I often get the feedback, you know, your work just makes me feel so calm. I feel so at peace. And it's interesting because I paint for myself to make myself feel those things in a world that's very busy and can be very stressful and very time-based. And while we let these little ones dry, I enjoy cutting them out as I practice them, just so I can move them along. And again, I try and pop them into, you know, if someone buys a piece of art, I'll try and pop in a couple of these little botanical cutouts when I have them, when I have time. That's just a way I feel of kind of letting go, having thought of it as practice, and then sharing it with the world. Kind of like a greeting card. I don't know what the other person on the other end will do with it, and I really enjoy writing words. Once this dries, I'll write a word on here, maybe gratitude or love. I wrote calm on this one. This one just makes me feel very calm, these colors. I'm going to go into my muddy water, and I'm just going to pick this really pretty olive green, and I'm going to add it in, and then I'm going to pick a yellow and just kind of loosely go over top of the watercolor that was already there. And just adding color. Maybe coming over here and just seeing if I can drop in any of that yellow on this side and what it does, and if I want to repeat it. Okay. I'm just gonna go to another favorite inspirational book, The World of Artist Journal Pages. Oops, I just smudged that, but that's okay. I'm gonna have a drink of water here. So the World of Artists journal pages, over 1,000 works, 230 artists in 30 countries. How can you not get inspired by this book? That's just how I feel. For those of you that have ever delved into mixed media, maybe more the commercial side, or I know for me, I really, I still love Jane Davenport's work. It's so bright, it's cheerful. I love her faces. That's something I would never really, I wouldn't say that I maybe wouldn't be able to do it. It would take me so long to feel like I have really nailed my, what do you say, my artist style in portraits. I find them really hard. I think I would find them a bit stressful, but she does it so well, and I just feel like it comes so natural to her. So she's featured in here, Jane Davenport from Australia. I have a lot of her washi tapes and her papers that I have purchased at Michael's before. And I don't know if I've ever taken a class from Jane Davenport, but she has wonderful classes on her website. She just has, I think she has her own line actually of, you know, paints, of paint pens. I think they're called mermaid markers she has. And again, I'm sidetracking, but the artists in here are so inspiring. They're so unique. There's so much variation. I'm gonna just zoom you in a little bit. And this particular artist, Julia Dean from Melbourne, Australia, it just shows some of her work here. And I really love the book, how they've interviewed the artist. So just while you're looking at this, I can just read the first interview question, which is, what do you do when you're blocked? So this is Julia Dean from Melbourne, Australia. She's a heart center counselor, and it tells what she used in this page on this art, which is gesso, acrylic paint, inks, collage, pencil, and gel medium. And it's very much, she really stuck with the blues, not quite a monochrome palette. There's a huge variation in the blues and the turquoises and the black, but it's very simple. What do you do when you're blocked? She says, I like to put on music and dance. It can be tribal drums or classical, orchestral, whatever I'm in the mood for that day. I also write poems, journal about current issues or my feelings, or take walks and sketch things I see. So this is just super, super inspiring. I'm gonna just bring you up. Hi, Oakley, you're gonna be a guard dog because you're gonna get lost in the snow out there. My little white rescue poodle thinks he needs to go for a walk, but he'll get lost in there. The snow will be over his head. You be a guard dog. We'll go later, Kate. We'll go later. You good boy. I'm gonna just flip through some other pages here, and then I'll probably change gears. So I think when I feel discouraged looking at this book of artist journal pages from around the world, this is Natalie Nair from Belgium, who's a medical doctor. And it says, how does working as a medical doctor affect your art journaling? And she said it doesn't. It's quite the opposite, actually. My right creative side of brain tends to conquer the analytic reasoning left one every single day. My colleagues say I bring a bit of this silliness with me to the hospital. I really do hate gravity. Don't get me. That's really cute. Oh, sorry, don't get me wrong. I thought that was the end of the interview. It says, don't get me wrong, I can be serious when it's needed, but I've noticed that a little self-mockery is more than welcome than solemnity when it comes to my patients. My stethoscope is pink, my rubber shoes are neon orange. I found purple ink for my doctor's stamp. As she said in brackets, I did, with an exclamation mark. I use metal or glitter gel pens to write prescriptions. I draw all the time in patients' medical files, and I do leave emoticons a lot. I believe that a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's pretty cool. So Natalie Nair from Belgium, and she has her own style there, which is pretty cool. So just as I flip through, I think about things that I really enjoy looking at, whether it's colors or images, maybe how something makes me feel when I see it. And oh, there's Laura Bucci from Vancouver, BC, Canada, practically my neighbor. Another artist from BC. Oh, BC, I think Canada might have a little chapter in here. Denmark. And I'll kind of flip through a little bit faster, but art is anything and everything. Art is what it is in the way that you define it. We are all artists, we are all creatives. I firmly believe that. And I think if everybody in the world could make an art journal, it would just be the most interesting thing. You know, if I, some of the artists that I follow and I really, really love, I would buy their art journals. If they put a price tag on a finished journal, I'd be all over that because I just find them so intriguing and loose and free, and there's so much feeling in them. I know I'm going really quickly. Italy, wow, beautiful. Oh, there's so much warmth and almost calmness in this page from Joy Lau from Tokyo, Japan. I really like her writing on here. It's very beautiful. It's almost like I can't quite tell, I can't quite make out the words. Some of them I can. I think it's pretty neat that you can go to a thrift store and find an old book, an old novel, you know, using dictionary pages in your art as collage, or gessoing over the page, you know, if it's a fairly high quality page in a book and you can turn it into an art journal. Some people will gather up mail or envelopes and put gesso on them and, you know, write on them, paint on them. So, I mean, an art journal, it doesn't have to be a bound book. It's just a recording of images, you know, maybe writing, maybe not. Whatever you think it should be, it's up to you. And so it's very freeing. Some art in here is very heavy. Some is extremely personal. Art is so vulnerable, isn't it? And I think there is a vulnerability that comes with sharing your artwork. This is a really pretty page here with the tulip. It's, especially today, looking out my window and just seeing a whiteout. It's cold. And yeah, I'll just kind of, wow, look at that artist index. Just gonna leave that there, and then we can maybe do, we'll just see how we are for time. I'll just maybe pull a card from my art poetry deck. And I haven't shuffled these in a while. We're almost at an hour here. It'd be cool if I stopped right at an hour, but I'm gonna not do that to myself because that would be a rule that I'm following that doesn't make sense. But my brain sees 59 minutes and 19 seconds, and I'm like, oh, I should try and hit it right at 60 and wrap it up. Okay, I'm going to just do this. Oh, that's funny. I'd pulled this card a few days ago, so maybe the universe is telling me I'm not present and I need to work on being more present. I see that I actually got something, oh, watercolor on here, but thank goodness it came off. So this painting, this is a mountain painting that I had done. It was really intuitive, and really this card sums up the reason that I paint. Now, I had recorded a video recently that I lost, and so I hope I'm not repeating myself. To be honest, when I do videos, I just kind of, I'll go back and maybe watch a bit of it, and I will totally have forgotten what I had said. It's really interesting, like what comes out in my videos. If you ask me in a week, I'll be like, I can't remember if I actually said that or what's in it. And I don't know if I had talked about this painting. I feel like I did, but this was a painting titled In the Elements 2, because I had painted my first mountain painting that I ever put into print was titled In the Elements. And I titled it that because when I create and do art, I'm in my element. I'm also in the elements here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, especially today in the mountains with drastic weather changes and extremes. And I think of just the elements of creating and versus the elements of nature and my environment, and how both really keep me present. So, going outside for a walk, being in the mountains, that keeps me present. I'm not thinking about anything in the past or what's going to happen down the road. And when I'm creating or doing art, I am completely present. So I felt like this card of my painting In the Elements 2, so at that time I wasn't as creative naming my art. I really I had a lot of requests to paint something that was similar to my first mountain painting In the Elements. That's why I titled this In the Elements number 2. So it's not the most creative, but it has a lot of meaning in that art is all about being present in the moment. So thinking about how you stay present. Do you stay present through art and creating, or through a sport, or being out in Mother Nature? I think some of you had written, now it's kind of coming back to me, that I have talked a little bit about this in my videos. So I won't go too much further with that particular card. I might just leave off with the Oracle deck from Adrienne Vita. And as I'd mentioned before, I had purchased this card when I was making my own deck, and I wanted to research decks that were all over the world and really feel like, what did I want in a card deck? And her work really spoke to me. So this is Adrienne Vita, Love and Magic Oracle deck, and I'm just going to pull this card. And this says, if you find yourself forcing or efforting, take a break. Everything feels effortless after alignment of your energy. So I think this just ties in with mindfulness and being present. And if you are feeling like you're kind of sidetracking from really being in the moment, maybe it is, kind of the universe's way of telling you to take a break and to slow down. And so many of us are in that hamster wheel and fighting against time in our society, in our cultures. And I think just the importance of finding something that will slow you down, that you really love, you get lost in, whether that be, whether it's a yoga practice or, curling, or I'm trying to think, golf. I mean, you think of all the sports, the hobbies, maybe it's just getting lost in drawing, or, being with family, being present with another person that makes you super happy and brings you calm and joy. So yeah, I'm gonna end here, but I really want to just express my gratitude, and these little cutouts are almost dry. So I'm just gonna, just right on here. gratitude, and this little one, I just want to write joy. And maybe I'll add some polka dots when these cross my path again. Okay, we'll see you all soon. Thanks.